Hello. This is Kevin Resilient at me. We will be picking back up on Humankind in just a minute. I recorded an episode half a week ago now and hadn't properly set my microphone up. So we will take this as good news in that I only played like 4 turns and it took 3.5 hours. And how this is good news is I will be reviewing the footage, summarizing it, and taking significantly less time. And then maybe getting on with the game, depending on how long it takes. So we don't need to crank the volume on this. So most of the episode was spent trying to figure out what civ to go to in the industrial era, as well as how many turns to go before going up to the next era. I believe turn 173 or 174 is where I'll be leaving this episode. I'd say you can safely skip this if you really don't care about specifics and my decision process. They were not an eventful couple turns. If you decide to stay with me, then, well, I appreciate it. So the first thing I was looking at, of course, was how many stars I think I can get within the next couple turns, and if I'm going to delay to get any. Well, I know I'll get any. I know I'll get the research star. I know I won't get the leverage star. So I'm looking at the districts and the pop. I will say what I figured out how to do was how to get 10 pop in the 3 to 4 turns. I'll spoil it ahead. I believe I was successful in doing that. And that is a lot of the, you call it the, I want to call it the FNAFing, the faffing around. It took so much time in this episode was figuring out how to make that work. We are going to make sure this doesn't take 3.5 hours to review, by the way. So I'll be making good use of this skip forward. So I can kind of tell you the basic focus of these turns.
You should go to this temple and pray for guidance.
Thanks. The basic focus was continuing the spying, figuring out what to do with the settler we queued up in the last episode, and then the era transition. And through this episode, I test ran 2 civs, Austria, Hungary, and Mexico, and didn't feel convinced enough to save after the transition. So I'd say the civ choice is still undecided. So, again, if you do wish to skip forward, I will be discussing that in the actual next gameplay segment. See, I don't remember why I was reviewing Ko's territory. I think I was trying to figure out if a war broke out between Zach, Marbazir, Ko, that vassal alliance, and me, if I'd want to take any of Ko's territory. The answer was no. That's Zach's just using his vassals as a buffer at this point to pay me off with other people's things when I need to directly sabotage him. So the plan for the spies, as I believe it was last episode, is to stop his culture output so I can culturally overwhelm the continent. None of these trades were particularly interesting. I make demands and then forgive them to get leverage. I left off last episode figuring out how to understand this civic choice. Short answer, cross out on relations. So when you declare war on somebody, you gain an immediate 30 war support for that war with them. I decided that's useless in this situation because the International Congress has something enacted that you need 90 war support to declare a war. So the maximum you can actually get from this bonus is plus 10 at that point. So what we did was we took trade resources over here. And what that does is you need 20% less of a resource deposit. Access just means deposit in your territory. To create the wondrous resource deposits, which is the luxury manufactory, which gives you fame and a special bonus for the resource. And I believe this does round up. Not to 100% necessarily, but it does. Well, obviously not 100%, but I think it rounds up to like 30%. Because there were resources where I only had 2, and it said you'd need 3, and then I was able to build the luxury thing. So we made good use of that.
To trading goodwill, good ideas, and good stories.
And then another thing, when I was researching the Civic, which is somewhere on here. So now I gotta find it. I'm annoying myself. Which one is it? There it is. It's over here. Yeah, what I realized was there was some art and culture civics that unlock once you build the playhouse that I'd been putting off because it looked useless. And the choice there, it gives you another level beyond the playhouse. You choose between which advanced building you want. I'm sure we will get to that in this episode. But I realized that. So I'm sure that's been annoying people. There was the luxury manufacturers we can make. I believe we built all of them. We prioritized those heavily. One of the things we learned in these couple turns is that through this and other factors, most of our cities have mass surplus in the stability. I believe the capital ends up over 100% surplus, 120% if I remember. So I was doing a lot of looking at combining cities with the recognition that stability was no longer a limiting factor. The end result was it still doesn't make sense to do because the Zemis thing. Well, for most potential mergers, there was an argument between the capital and what are my city names? I'm so professional. The capital and Urim down here. That massively increased my money and culture income. Culture being because the Nazca lines are an additive benefit for each one you have within the city. The money, I spent very long time trying to figure out why I was gaining so much money. And I don't think I actually was able to figure it out. I wasn't gaining better infrastructure because the cities were equally developed in the economics. The only thing I could figure is I was somehow getting more trade routes going through the city that was taking advantage of the Great Harbor. Sorry, I need to be making more time through the episode. I'm explaining things ahead of where they actually happen. Maybe the game is more just the backdrop to my explanations here. So the main thing, I was doing math, trying to figure out the money thing. And I worked out that the percentage gains given by the bank and some of the other things equal out the same versus 2 cities each having a bank. And then if you combine the cities and it's one bank, 10% is 10%. So the combined value of the cities, assuming it's equal to the 2 individual values, 10% is 10%. So if you have 50, 10% is 5. If you have 35 and 15, 10% is still adding 5. Did I get that right? 35 and 15, yeah. So there was no obvious reason that the money was giving us a bonus. I don't remember what I was looking up here. I think I was trying to find where the settler is and get details on them. Yeah, let's see what I... We can pivot into this as it's actually coming up on the screen. I think I've already explained the this back half of this episode. Yeah, let me go back real quick. Alright, so what I was looking up here, I had an issue with the population. A settler takes 3 pop. The game, when it adds up your population, adds up the total of the cities, as you'd expect, and your units. What it does not do is recognize a unit that requires 2 or 3 population as 2 or 3 population. Every unit is 1 pop for the agrarian star. So when I made a settler, thinking, oh good, I can get 3 pop out of the city, it'll quickly grow back those 3 pop. Guess what? The settler only counts as 1. So it's an immediate -2 to total pop when you build the settler. Although the city will grow back quickly. So it works out in a couple turns. It's just not as an immediate decision as it sounds. If that makes sense. Like that city there is overpopulated. So it's like ideally you want to build units to get that down so they can grow quicker again. But if the unit costs more than 1 pop, you're basically immediately sacrificing pop, according to the star. Now if you'd actually disbanded the unit back into the city, didn't try that. So I don't know if you'd get the full refund or just 1. Because I know there's sneaky ways to get those agrarian stars. So you want to max out the cities and then get the population out on the field as units. Because if you're in the last era or you're just really quickly trying to get that star, you can disband units back into the city, right? Or that would work if you got the full total back. I don't know. There's a lot of stuff that's not perfectly intuitive, and you got to figure out how to manipulate it. See, as much as I enjoy Humankind, the unintuitiveness and lack of explanation is the Achilles heel to this game. I mean, the other Achilles heel is just the aesthetic role playing of going to completely unrelated civs and having your entire aesthetic swapped to something unrelated. I think there's a instead of a continuity, it's a discontinuity. Yeah. And I think that's what Civ 7 is trying to address, where they limit what civs you can pick as you go into the next eras or acts or however they're calling it, based on who you picked initially, as well as your kind of ethnic group and actions. They're trying to get rid of that moment where you suddenly have a new soundtrack playing and a new aesthetic to everything that is just completely different than what you had previously. So I can't talk and seek through the video, unfortunately. So we unlocked this civic, and we were trying to figure out the value here. Basically, it's just your stability value changes less quickly, or it changes more quickly. And when we have cities that have mass amounts of stability and are well over 100%, and it doesn't really matter. So I think the choice is mostly going to come down to the shifts on the metrics. Just strange because I believe I took the censored one, and that's not the direction I want to move things. So I'm not sure if I made a mistake or what I was thinking. So you see, we're making these ships to basically do what I said before, get the population out of the cities. Alright, so something I have not explained yet was the settler and where I was going to put them. So there's this island in the center of the map that's currently unsettled, and there's a few other ones toward the corners of the map. Initially, I was looking at the resource deposits on said islands, primarily the number of unknown ones that'll unlock in later eras. And then, as I went forward, I realized two things. One of them is that between these four unsettled territories, that you can see them as sets of two, where they're directly adjacent to each other. So if you settle one, and then the other one could be an attached region. The much more important factor, and let's see if I can skip ahead before I actually recognize this, because this needs to be displayed on the screen, is that the value of these regions is the trade passing through them. I'm Venice. I have the bonus for every naval trade route going through my territories. There's the fish market you can build that gives you massive bonuses for every bit of trade traveling through your territories. So these islands that are primary trade routes between the continents, their value is setting up on the trade route and taxing it, basically. A lot of what we were looking at over here is that this island is currently unimpressive, but that's because trade is being diverted north because of this war. Let's try to find where I actually get the numbers on the screen so you can see how significant. So yeah, that island, garbage right now. But that's because it's primarily going through Quill's territory that's currently occupied. Because if you look at Quill and Lewis's territory, those two who are at war, all the trade from Lewis was going through Quill's. It was going through this island here. As soon as the war broke off, it rerouted north through there. So we were picking our settlement location with the assumption that this war will soon end. Lewis will conquer everything. He's steamrolling. And then the trade will reroute back through the middle island, through that unsettled land. If I could see where I pivot to the southern island, where'd the sound go? Wait. Is the recording still functioning? Yeah. Oh, I don't need drama while I'm recording. Come on now. It's just there. So professional of me. I guess the game was just quiet at that point. So yeah, skimming around, we're looking at the number of trade routes. I think the numbers are ingoing, outgoing, total, or something like that. I don't know. I'm not sure I have a great understanding of it. But the big recognition was that settlement needs to take trade routes into account. Because that's actually huge. A huge mechanic in this game that's very easy to just forget exists. We were also realizing that Lomadia is dependent on this continent over here of traveling not necessarily through purple, but under purple through this island with this aggressive tribe, or over through Ko over there. So there was some consideration on if the next war will involve taking that southern island territory from Ko, just because the trade routes. And also, there will be some consideration as to how we can cut Zack off from the New World, so we don't just push him off it entirely. So yeah, look at this island here. This is a reason that I'm doing so well. The fact that I settled these islands between the continent, and there's that mass amount of trade going through there. You see how insane, just any 3-digit number is insane. The problem going forward is that Zack has vassalized Ko and Marbsir. I don't trust that trade to maintain. I think as I enter the industrial era, I'm going to pivot not just into sabotaging Zack, but seeing if I can free those vassals just to protect the trade, basically. So these islands over here have zero trade going through them and zero potential for anything to develop. Because they're not between any two things. They're between nations that'll be unfriendly with me. So trade will not pass through at all, and then just some of Lewis's little islands, they're all just sending things back to his capital. So the only value of these is the resources. No trade. So what I had determined was to send the settler to the middle island. And then I think I was also sending someone to put an outpost on the southern island there, with some consideration that Ko has that adjacent territory that looks good, and the fact that if I declare war on Zack, I could just steal Ko's territory. That doesn't really accomplish anything. I mean, it helps me gain stars, but doesn't slow down our braggart friend. So I'll skip over most of the hem and hawing here, because I'll just do that again when I'm actually picking something. Like for real. Wasn't anything particularly unique in that discussion. See, so we're more than an hour in, and we've taken 25-ish minutes. We're about heading toward a 1-to-3 compression ratio of the time recording, and I will try to speed that up. I told you I've already discussed a lot of what goes on in the back half of the episode with picking the civ and the absorbing of the cities together. One of the things that I didn't discuss is when I did a test of merging Akkad and Unug here, I gained a bunch of population. Merging any other two cities, the Empire didn't gain any population. It was just a total of, say, 32 plus 50. But merging 34 plus 50 did not add those together. There was enough additional population to immediately get that star. And I could not figure that out. I looked at so many metrics, so many, like the infrastructure, the tech, the land, everything. I have no idea where the additional pop was coming from, that no other combination resulted in. And I'll see if I can catch this here on film. I'm not sure when I absorb what. There you go. See? Watch that. See this. This was about like, I don't know the exact numbers, but it was like 237 out of like 245, something like that. There's 8 to 10 pop I need to get that star. So the city is 50 plus 34. So that should be 84. Now watch. Star. Does say 84 though. But the star. And, this brings in even more questions. My first thought was, okay, the agrarian star scales based on your number of cities. So my first thought was I reduced the number of pop I need to hit the star. But that is not true. That is one of the things I've reloaded this game many times during this episode, trying to understand the before and afters of things. Like I said, any other merging of the city, the star doesn't move whatsoever. Just these two cities. And that's curious because it doesn't actually increase this number. I'm not sure I necessarily picked up on that. So I must have increased the population in other cities when I did that. Wait a minute. Current value 274. I have 247. How much pop did I increase when I got that star? Wait a minute. Sorry, now I have the advantage of scrubbing back and forth to check things. So we're 7436 in now. Remember that for me, because I won't. If we go back here, 237. I don't know if, is it all the same turn? I think it is all the same turn. Where did I merge these? Alright. We're almost there. 274. Oh, I cooked it perfectly last time. I should probably find a better tool for scrubbing videos. Default. It looks like I gained 40 population though. Tell me I'm not like utterly mad. Recognizing more replaying it than I did actually in the commentary that's non-existent because it didn't record. That's giving me more questions than answers. Do note that I don't believe I saved after any city mergers. Said there's a lot of experimenting in this lost episode. But I believe we gained like 40 pop. Which must just be a bug. It must be misreading. But I don't know why it's unique to merging those two cities. And it didn't throw anything else off. And yeah, well, the one thing we realized, any merging of cities is going to cost a lot of pop because you're going to have negative food. That's why I didn't save after any mergers. Because even merging Unug and Urim, which was huge bonuses to culture and money, the food was still like negative 2,000. And I didn't know how much pop that calculates out to a loss of, but it's obviously going to lose pop consistently at that point. So here I merged in an extra city to see what that would do. Nothing unexpected happened. The food is ridiculously bad, of course. And that does tank stability. You can't just merge all the cities. I will note, too, in my test run of going down Mexico, which is the big agrarian civ for the industrial era, the bonus was practically nothing compared to the numbers we're already looking at. Which is why I reloaded on that one. Austria-Hungary was the same. It's a culture civ, and the innate bonus was practically nothing. Nothing keeps up with the lines. No, that's not really unexpected. So I'm not actually sure what the decision process is going to be for the next civ, honestly, still. So the things I was using as the decision makers turned out to be very, very minor. And yeah, I did a lot of harassing of envoys. Let's skip ahead so there's something else to see. So I believe this is where I merged Unug and Urim. Let's confirm so you can see the actual before and after. And then we can skip all the reloading, because I can just scrub and show you the before and after numbers. So this is the before. And you're watching. When I merge those, this does not move the pop star. No change of pop. And what you do want to watch is the culture. It's 2293 per turn. The money is 5914 per turn. 5913 became 6324. Culture, I can't keep that many numbers in my head. So 2293. Becomes, so 2293 becomes 3109. Well, it's almost 1,000, is that right? Oh, that's even more than I thought. I thought the money was the big thing. That may well be something we do when we actually get into the games, merge those cities and take our punishment on the agrarian, which you will notice did not move. If we do that, we'll be giving up future agrarian stars, I believe. So the question at that point is, as much as those numbers increase with this merge, are they already high enough to gain all the stars that we don't want to sacrifice this? Because, yeah, I mean, there's the greater good and all that, gaining more than you're losing. But this game's about being well-rounded, gaining all the stars in every category. You see, we still are 100% stability with those cities merged. The food's tanked. It's not all the Zemis, because we're only losing 165 from merging the cities. I did look at the civic and ideology ones, and a lot of the reloading, both the civic and the ideology numbers, are the exact same total as the two cities were independently. Same with districts, exploitations. All those numbers are basically the added totals. So the only thing we're losing is the Zemis. That's not even enough to get to negative 1,000 if you count that out. So the population consumption must just scale with the raw number. Meaning you're not supposed to have super cities. It's not how the game's designed. Of course, going into the industrial and later eras, there might be tech that rapidly increases the food consumption. And then the question is, what's the difference between waiting to merge the cities till you have that versus taking the loss now and then letting it regrow? Yeah, starvation is starvation, but it's a game. Number go down, number go up versus numbers stay the same. What's the actual difference? Not talking real people, we are actually talking statistics. So I think at this point I reloaded and went to check this out again because I was still stuck on why does star go up with this merge and star does not go up with the other merge. So you have two layers of me bouncing the mouse around and pointing at things. Yeah, see, so that consistently does that. And the other ones consistently don't. Let's get moving through this video. Alright, the calculator. This is the math on the money. Trying to figure out why the money went up. So what you see, the 15 times 1.06, there was a 6% bonus on something, I believe. So I did 50 times 1.06, and then I did 15 and 35 separately times 1.06. And they work out to the same. So having a 10% bonus is a 10% bonus, regardless if you're talking about it occurring in two separate cities or one city with a combined income. So I determined that that's not a factor. You can forget about that. It does not explain why the money goes up so much merging those cities. None of the infrastructure explained it. The cities had very similar infrastructure. I believe when you merge cities, you get the best infrastructure from both in the merged city. But they were practically identical, so. Wasted construction, but whatever. That is going to be a tactic for this game, is specializing cities and then merging them so you don't double build the infrastructure, but you get it all in one city. So, I hope that makes sense. Building cities with the plan to later merge them could affect or efficient construction. Let's see. So there's me back looking at the trade. I think we've discussed that thoroughly enough. So, when I was playing, I didn't understand everything at the same time. Now that I'm recounting it for you, I have the hindsight of understanding everything that I was looking at the multiple times I looked at it. See, this southern island, I think I was looking at invading and destroying that or something. Figuring out how much trade might go through there in the future. Currently, the trade is just going through a Sur. It's not going through Moa here. I don't see any reason for that to change. That bottom island is currently bringing in 50, but the question is, would any of that redirect when the war ends? I don't think so. I think that's pretty stable. So what we were doing with this was noticing that these territories are attached. So those two islands could be made into one city. Sorry. Mouse cursor. Problems with it. Using a mouse on a bed will do. See, we don't need to go look at the northern islands again. I was looking at settlement regions down there. I believe I wanted to put the city on the southern island and then outpost on the middle island. But I was comparing, trying to figure out if I wanted the food or the production tiles. We're not gonna worry about that. Okay. Artistic expression. Oh, we hadn't decided on this footage yet. We keep coming back to that. I think I just picked one because there wasn't really much in the way of decision between them. Let's see if we actually pick it here. I think I will make this a separate episode so that people who want to just get on with the game can just skip the episode rather than seeking through this. Because it's all going to be Humankind footage as you're seeking, so that'll make things easier for people to figure out where the transition point back to actual gameplay is. Makes my life easier too. So yeah, as expected over here, we ransacked Zach's outpost. Lomadia was doing it, but then moved off of it as my military approached. Which I can only assume is the vassal AI going, oh hey, my overlord's here, I'll let you take the cash. Like, I don't have another explanation for why they would stop ransacking it.
You have my ear. Tell me what you want to discuss.
I'm sure, as I said in the actual video, I want to discuss selling your ear back to you. I gotta get some cringe in this.
What do you say to this appealing proposal?
I mean, the thing is, it seems really obvious to go to a trade-focused civ for the next era. The issue is that the trade-focused civs are both builders. And I'm not doing so good in the districts. Also, a lot of the trade is going through civs that I'm essentially at war with because they're vassals now. And I can't reestablish any trade once it's lost. So the Siamese, the Persians are the really trade-focused ones. Argentina, or I don't think I'm saying that right, but this is a merchant civ, but they don't have anything specific to trade routes. What I did note, though, is that this bonus that gives you additional workers would help with the overpopulation issue. So this almost ends up as an agrarian choice in an odd kind of twist of things. But I didn't care about the other stuff that they have. And that can be a discussion for some real gameplay. So we were observing the war between Quill and Lewis. It's very clearly one-sided. So the question will just be if Quill gets vassalized or if the territory actually switches hands. I know that continuing from the last episode, there's a lot of my spies accidentally getting attacked by units moving around. That's just kind of an ongoing. Yeah, so we burned that. They immediately set up an outpost. And that was another confusion I had. This got established into a territory and added to the city the same turn they started building this outpost. And I didn't understand why there was no turns. Well, they waited for that to develop. Like, if you understand what I'm saying, usually you put down an outpost and you have to wait for it to build before you attach it to the city. The second that finished, they built that. Which I also figured the AI was actually smart enough to know I was going to ransack that, so they went and moved to the spot they wanted to put the outpost. That is the alternative to them being nice. So another thing I did in these episodes is setting up the armies surrounding Zack and the Omar Bazir and Co. Just making sure when a war breaks out, I'm positioned properly. This southern flank on the main continent with Co is where I'm least prepared. So that is something that'll continue being worked on in the real episode. Getting a navy in position as well as a ground army. I'm very much focused on front lines overseas. And note here, as my settler was traveling to this island, Spiffing Brit noticed its existence and decided to put up an outpost. And I decided, hey, guess what? Well, let's keep that alliance and play nice and just go somewhere else. So this point is where I decide to change where the settler is going and go focus on those resources. And say, I give up. Finders, keepers, he got there first. It's fine. Not going to war with everybody. And maybe I'll steal this off Co. Yeah, that was part of the decision process. Is if the trade's flowing through here, I only need one of the islands, and this one's up for grabs as far as I can see. So he can have that. He can influence trade to go there, and I'll take this, and all will be merry and well in the world. And the difference is that island is not connected to that territory, so you can't. That would not be a separate city. That would have to be merged in with Urim there. We're continuing to hit culture and stability with the spies. Scrub forward. We're starting to build some of the military buildings, like the armories and the forts. It's not particularly much discuss with that. Okay, so we had set it up so that every city gains a population in one turn. So as we go into turn 173, we're going to gain that pop. Get that agrarian star there. 5 pop 1 turn. And that was that strategy working out. A spy getting accidentally attacked, as keeps happening. A lot of simple little ambushes. We win every single one of those fights that happens.
This is clear. You are.
We went to expose his undercover agents and found out there were no undercover agents. Very simple, nothing to discuss. Artistic ownership. This is what we got for having that playhouse developed. A civic that we could have gotten much sooner in the game if we'd known about it. So influence per research. Influence on research quarters per adjacent district. And that brings you away from global toward the homeland. So we didn't want that. So we need that food. If anything, we want to push that back to the right. So obviously we grab the independent artists, which is influence on the common quarters per adjacent district. We don't have too much of that in the Empire.
Is itself a bit anarchic. Why not take that to its logical conclusion?
So that was a choice mostly about the spectrums, the metrics, whatever you call those. Let's keep skipping. We're realizing we're about at the end of the tech tree, and I don't think we have any interest in mercantilism there. It doesn't lead to anything. It can be safely ignored. Something that I don't remember well enough to recount is depending on what direction we go with the civ choice, there was two lines to go through the tech tree to really focus in on things. There was, I think, the food focus and maybe a gold focus. I don't remember it completely. And I think we wanted one of the military things. We want the stealth bonuses and we want the stealth guerrilla units. So then we can sneak around outside of war and do some damage. Now, there was one other thing I noticed here. This research institute is what leads to a lot of the nuclear technologies, and this doesn't have prerequisites. So there's no line going into that. If you grab a science civ, one of the bonuses of that is they can research things in era past where they're positioned. I believe there's only one science civ for the industrial era, France. So my question here was, could you grab France, grab the Research Institute, and beeline nuclear weapons before doing anything in the industrial era? And I think the answer is yes, but you need a way to deploy the bombs, which would be submarines or planes, I believe. Don't quote me on that, because that's me trying to remember my game 3 years ago of this. Right, I know I researched nukes ahead of time. I didn't have a way to deploy them. I didn't do it this way, but there does look like a way to get really early nuclear weapons. Don't know that we're going to be going that route in this game. This is the diplomatic game, don't you know? So the other thing here, we have all these demands against Zach that are for cash. We don't want cash. We want territory. Alcor isn't even in his ownership anymore, because that's what we raised and got resettled by Lobadia. So I'm planning to strategically withdraw these demands before declaring war. Basically, when there's another grievance that I care about, withdraw the demands, get the war support, and be able to declare a war without these being necessities in order to get a surrender. I don't want to be wasting surrender points or whatever it's called on cash payments when I don't want cash payments. I want actual land. So that was something we planned ahead in the episode, but it hasn't come to be yet. I don't know when that war is going to break out. I don't think he's even still at war with Spiffing Brit, so that surrender is useless. So we're looking at our cultural dominance over here. This is something that'll be giving us the grievances. And even just pop in one of his vassals' territories gives us a grievance against him. Fortunately, that one turn won't give us anything because that's actually our territory already. Yeah. But yeah, we're gaining grievances on both continents with the cultural domination. I don't particularly want to waste war support grabbing Kerma either. So, I mean, we're just trying to do damage and steal trade important territories rather than take the actual infrastructure, I believe. That's what our focus will be. That's more looking at the city absorbing, the trade routes, the civs. Okay. So I believe we finished the episode on turn 173. Or if that's not where I finished it, I'll be reverting to that turn for the start of the proper episode. Let's try to find the right point. There. So at first we picked Austria-Hungary because I wanted the spy units.
Buildings reach higher and roads stretch longer. And yet, the world gets smaller as bridges unite lands. Towns congest. Railroads bring distant goods to the doorstep. Anything seems possible in this wondrous future. Though as humankind grows, the planet itself appears to shrink. If other empires won't open their front doors to your artists and thinkers, you can send in your agents the back way.
Alright, here's the cringe that I was so mad to have lost to the episode not being recorded. We're going to reclaim the infamy right here.
If other empires won't open their front doors to your artists and thinkers, you can send in your agents the back way.
Agent Spider coming in the back door. You know when I played it up, it was going to be a bad joke. You know what you're in for. Yeah. So yeah, going to immediate Estate Starks, we're fine on that. That's like 15, not even probably 15 turns to the next star. So this tells us we're going to coast right through that. We're not dependent on combining the cities. The Emperor's Hand didn't end up being significant at all. The population, probably going to be about another 25 per star. Does not look achievable without tech. So yeah, we set up, I don't know if we were trying to target the culture or what we were trying to target, but it doesn't matter because this is non-canon. We reloaded. We were looking at the culture output of the cities over here to see if the continent would be taken any quicker with the estate bonuses from Austria-Hungary. The answer was no. It was a very pitiful thing. I guess the fact as to why the bonus from Austria-Hungary is poor is the culture bonuses are only relevant on the city on the other continent. There's still no cross-ocean cultural spread. So all this cultural boost it's literally just turns into this number over here. There's no influence effects when the continent's already completely dominated. So it feels like we're wasting that bonus just by being on a culturally united continent. We're not going to worry about that civic because I'll be seeing that in the real episode. As well as these things that we're setting up that'll be reloaded. So I explained why I didn't like Austria-Hungary. I'm not going to tell you for sure that I won't actually pick that because I still like the spy unit. So that's just me looking at the culture, like I said. And here's us reloading. And we picked the Mexicans that time. I'll get you this.
And passionate people.
Let's get that.
The world gets... Everyone talks about Mexico's revolutionary heroes, mural painters, and passionate people. Please don't forget the agave.
I didn't have any additional cringe to offer for that one. So basically, we looked at that and we went, oh, that's going to be hard to get. And then, I believe we looked at the food total. Yep. Fields of Gold is... That's got to be the Mexico one. That's plus 69. I'm not going to say it. You can say it. It's a very little number. Maybe not versus 360, but once the cities are merged, then guess what? It's still minus 1,000. So, Fields of Gold's additive, unlike the Zemi Workshop, so that's 141. But it's still, it's like 10% of the deficit. And I believe that is what disappointed me enough with Mexico. I looked at... I wish I could scrub this by like a quarter of a second. I want you to be able to read that. Try it again. That's not the right spot. So professional, I know. Need a better scrubber. So we looked at the bonus that's innate to the civ, and then I wanted you to see that emblematic district there. Because we reloaded based off the disappointment of the Fields of Gold, and then here's the emblematic district. +1 food is meh, don't care about that versus 1,000. +3 per adjacent farmers' quarters. I believe the only place I have farmers' quarters is right next to the actual capital, and there's like 3 or 4 of them. So you can cross that off, because these are 1 per territory. You cross that off. Farmers' quarters, I'm assuming for the entirety of the city, get +3 food. There's not very many farmers' quarters. Cross that off. +1 farmer slot, and yeah, that'll add up at -10 stability per. +1 food on tile that produces food might be more significant. I could see that being useful. But you're looking at those bonuses. And then you look at -1,000. What I see is a lot of single-digit numbers and a 4-digit number. Many of these which can be crossed off. And that doesn't impress me. So, at that point, what I'm seeing is that I've picked a civ that has stars that are hard to gain, and has that resettlement thing that'll agitate everyone, but it'll just put pops in cities to starve because I can't support them. So it doesn't really gain me anything there either. I did like the aesthetic of Mexico's units. It was more in line with the civs we were running earlier in the game. So we have the continuity aesthetic thing, but... So yeah, let's see if I can get that back on the screen again here. I was looking at the optimal place in the entire empire to build one of these districts. And it's a tile that gives 20 food. It's like, is that it? Because that's not that impressive. Empire effects +6 food. City effects +1. Those just aren't good numbers. So at this point, I'd written off Austria-Hungary, gone Mexicans, and now I'm even less impressed. Because at least well, I guess both of these civs have the guerrilla warfare unit, so that's why I was between these two, because I like the unit. So where I left this episode is questioning if I really have anything to gain from any of the industrial civs. or if I should just go the trade route way and just make a mad amount of money and buy up all the infrastructure I don't have yet. Or do I pivot into something war focused? Somehow put a spin on that so I can keep saying this is the diplomatic playthrough. Do I just transcend as the Venetians? What do I do? I know I looked at that again because I couldn't believe that that was such a write-off. And then I realized, well, maybe not. Because here we have some infrastructure that adds jobs. And if we were going to stay agrarian with the Mexicans and want the pop, this is an easy way to get a ton of jobs. Well, not a ton, but you build one in each city. It's like, you got to look at things with the full picture in mind. It's like, oh, it's a manufacturing, it's an industrial upgrade. Is it though? Workers. See what I mean? You gotta look at things full picture, interdisciplinary, however you want to phrase it. And as at this point, I've played a few episodes of Ara History Untold, and that's a game. Oh, you really need that mindset. You look at a resource like horses, and you go, yeah, it's horses. I can make horse units. And then it's like, oh, wait a minute. But if I can build carriages, which require horses, then that increases money, but it lowers health, and then it's like, oh, there's endless complexity to. I mean, the game's primarily so far about finding the right resources to start the right production chains to build the right unit or goods, but completely separate from mechanics at play in this game. So let's not get too distracted right at the end of the episode here. We're just checking out the aesthetics of the units as I'm mourning the fact I'm going to be giving up on this civ. Still with no decision for what we're picking next, which is why we skipped a lot of the hemming and hawing and then I probably spent well over an hour of this 3-hour episode looking between the civs and explaining the decision process for why to and not to take certain things and the usefulness of things. I'm going to have to review that in the next episode and we'll do that fresh. So, no use trying to remember all that. I gave you the basics. And that'll probably be this recap to correct my oops. But hey, I mean, if I'm respecting your time, 3.5 hour episode, it's a lot of back and forths. Did you want to watch that? I don't know. Depends how much time you have. So as we called it in that video, we're going to call it in this video. 3.5 hours down to 1 hour 10 with my lovely no editing style. But hey, hopefully I'm easier to follow than the people who are constant shot changes and all over the place. Yeah. Let me know if you've watched the series this far and watched this episode. What do you think? You appreciate the different slow style on things? I mean, I think it is what it is, but hopefully it's unique. And if it's not, let me know who I should be watching, because I like my own style. I like to find other people who do it the same way, And with that, Kevin Resilient ME signing off. Goodbye.